Hello everybody, my name is NCSO7 and earlier this year I had the great honor of being able to play both of the Sonic the Hedgehog 4 games or the Sonic 4 games. Now, if you're unaware, these were released back in the early 2010s by Sega to basically be a throwback to the Genesis era Sonic titles. These were released during like the whole kind of retro revival kind of age. This was when 2D platformers were starting to go back on the rise after not really appearing that much during the 6th generation. So this was basically meant to be for everyone. It was meant to be a throwback to the Genesis era Sonic titles, but would also bring in new fans who play games like Sonic Unleashed. And did they do that? Well, I would say they didn't really do that. I would say for a lot of people, these were pretty disappointing. People disliked various things about both games, but it's been over a decade since those games came out, so maybe they won't suck. Well, they're probably gonna suck. Let's just get right into this. Sonic 4 Episode 1 would release in October of 2010 for mobile devices as well as on various game consoles such as the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and the Nintendo Wii. And like I said before, this was released at a time when 2D platformers were starting to become more mainstream, and this game was meant to bring us back to those classic Genesis days, but they didn't really do that. Let's get right into this. So let's start off with a bit of a small thing, but just keep this in mind. The title screen animation, look at Sonic's movement for his finger. It's like only a few frames, whereas in the Genesis games, it was much more fluid and smooth. Keep this in mind. Now, the game is only 4 zones long with one final boss, and while it may seem rather short, it honestly isn't too bad considering the game is only $10 and the fact that the game is complete garbage too. So you wouldn't want it to be long. So let's dive into that garbage. How's the gameplay? And the answer is not really good. It is basic. It's basically just game from point A to point B in a quick amount of time. Beat the boss at the end of each zone. Pretty bare bones. But hey, that's fine. That's what the Genesis Sonic games were all about, right? So it's not really a big deal, as long as Sonic controls well and that the level design is good, right? Well, starting with Sonic's controls, they're not the worst thing ever, but I mean, he can move and jump, but he can't really run that fast in these games. I don't know why, but for some reason, they made Sonic slower in this game than other ones. It feels like the speed he was set at in Sonic Lost World, and do I really need to mention that game? Even when you're on the speed boost, they don't speed him up that much, which just kind of makes the game feel a lot less fast-paced, which is lame, because Sonic is all about going fast. One ability he does have in this game is the homing attack, which was from the 3D games, but honestly, why include it? It wasn't in the Genesis game, so why they put it in here is beyond me. Also, whenever you jump in the game, it just feels so slow, like you're really floaty. Everything about the physics in this game is just not really that fun. Everything just doesn't feel that great. This is a Sonic game. Why can't I go fast? And as for the level design, it's not really that interesting either, as, well, it isn't awful, it's not really memorable at all. I can't even remember any zones from the top of my head. Aside from the ones where you have to run on boulders, which, screw those sections. Those sections were horrible. As for the bosses, they honestly aren't too hard until you fight the final boss, which is fucking horrible. Not only does it start with the boss rush of all the previous bosses, but then when you get to the actual thing, it takes forever and is way harder than it needs to be. Maybe some people got through this easily, but not me. I barely beat the final boss of this game. Through the graces of God, I was able to beat it, but just barely. So, okay, the gameplay isn't that great, but how are the visuals? Well, I'll be honest, this game does not look good. Playing this on Xbox Series S made me realize one thing. This feels like a mobile game, and the thing is, Sonic 4 Episode 1 was originally meant to be a mobile-only spin-off. And it shows. The display just makes me feel like they forgot to change how the game looks. While it may look fine to you, the camera is so zoomed in on Sonic that it can get hard to see what's coming up ahead and what's around you. And considering I'm playing this on a big screen TV, it's complete bullshit. Why isn't it more zoomed out? I don't get it. Even Sonic's model in this game just doesn't look right. I don't know. Something with the shading is just not good in my opinion. Yeah. So visually, it's bleh. I mean, the game runs fine at the very least, but it should. This game isn't really that taxing on hardware. So the visuals are kind of not the best. But what about the music? Well, I didn't remember much music at all in the game aside from the final boss theme, though for all the wrong reasons. And yeah, I would say the music's not awful, but it's not really that memorable compared to the Genesis Sonic games. Nothing beats stuff like Green Hill Zone or Chemical Plant Zone or in terms of music. So that's disappointing. And that's pretty much it. The game only really lasts 2 hours, and while it may seem short, those 2 hours were way longer than they need to be. Episode 1 is just not good. From a way too zoomed in camera to physics that annoy me to no end, to music and level design that just isn't memorable, to bosses that are either too easy or way too hard, that's Sonic 4 Episode 1. Overall, it's probably one of the worst games I've ever played, or at the very least the worst Sonic game I've played. Granted, I haven't played that many of the bad Sonic games, but this is definitely the first low I've experienced. And you want to know what the worst part is? I'm not done. This is only episode 1 of 2, so let's go take a look at episode 2 and see how that fares. Sonic 4 Episode 2 initially released in May of 2012 on PC, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3, and as well as some other systems. And if I was going to be brief, Episode 2 is basically Episode 1, but I guess not as bad? I mean, the only thing that I felt that was really fixed was the visuals, as they look a lot better than Episode 1, as the camera's not so zoomed in on Sonic, and in my opinion, has a better art style. Honestly, I think the game visually looks a lot better than the first game by a mile. This is a lot more aesthetically pleasing. But aside from that, I mean, they didn't really fix a lot gameplay-wise. While the game is faster, the game still controls like booty, still having jank physics just like the first episode. Though, and even though I said before that Sonic does go a lot quicker, the spin dash is still garbage and really isn't helpful at all. The levels are still really not that interesting. There's honestly not much I can really say about the gameplay that's positive. I mean, there is multiplayer now, as another player can play as Tails, which I guess is cool, but why share this game with someone else? To be fair, the ability to do co-op online is really cool, and more platformers should do this. Even if you play in single player or multiplayer, even in single player, Tails will still follow you. In some sections of levels, you'll need his help either by flying or transforming into a ball that actually makes you go as fast as you should go normally. With the spin dash, why wasn't it this quick in the first place? This still doesn't fix the problem of going quick though. I will say the bosses are much more difficult this time around. Even the final boss, just like the first episode, but it's not as bad as that one. And honestly, there's not really much else to say. It kind of just repeats some of the same issues as the first episode for the most part. But I should mention as well, the music is not that good either. It's a lot worse than the first episode and just feels kind of empty. The game is basically the same length as the first episode and just left me very thoroughly disappointed. Now to be fair, I did play episode 1 prior to episode 2, and considering episode 1 didn't really leave me with the best reception, I was a little biased going into episode 2, but honestly, it's not enough of an improvement. Like, yeah, it is in ways, but like, Sonic Generations came out the year prior, which had 2D Sonic sections in that game. And while I know that the classic Sonic sections in Generations aren't the best, they're still fun. And I think they're still a lot better than this. I felt like episode 2 wanted to be more, but I felt like it was just too late. And considering that this came out like practically 2 years after episode 1, you'd think they would have improved a lot more, but no, it's ultimately just kind of the same thing, except slightly improved. The only thing that really got an overhaul was the visuals. So yeah, this game left me disappointed as well. But guess what? There's DLC levels too, which I'm not playing. I know in these levels you can play as Metal Sonic, but I'm not playing these. I'm gonna just assume they're mediocre at best. I'm sorry if I'm just kind of skipping over that stuff, but I can't. When I beat episode 2, I was just like, I'm not playing this again. Aside from recording footage, which even that wasn't the most fun. But episode 2 isn't terrible, but it's not good either. This game is very, very mixed, but I feel like it's more disappointing. It's not as atrocious as episode 1, but it's a lot more disappointing when you consider they had so much time to improve. And this was the best they could do? I don't know. But that's my thoughts on the game. There's not really much else to say, so let's wrap this video up. Yeesh, this has not been the most positive video, but these games drag me down with them. These are stains on Sonic's legacy. Everyone goes to Sonic 06 or Rise of Lyric for worst Sonic games, but honestly, not enough people talk about how garbage these two games are. These were made as an attempt to bring Sonic a new wave of fans to play these and then try the Genesis games where it all started, but instead disappointed people and were just used for ammunition in a fight on whether Sonic's good or bad. Now, to ask the question, which episode is worse? Personally, episode 2 is worse, and while it may seem better than episode 1, as I've said before, it isn't quite as bad, it's disappointing. Seriously, Sonic 4 episode 1 came out in 2010 and episode 2 in 2012. They had 2 years to fix what went wrong the first time, and this is all they could do? And again, this was after Sonic Generations came out, which was a much better representation of those older games. The fact that episode 2 didn't improve the physics or gameplay much at all is such a sin. Seriously, be glad we have games like Sonic Mania and Superstars nowadays, because back then, these two loathsome turds were the best you got. Thankfully, there never was an episode 3, as there was a plan to make Sonic 4 a trilogy of episodes, but thank God these games didn't do too well. But yeah, these were definitely a stain on Sonic's legacy. But hopefully you never play them. Or if you have played these games, let me know in the comment section what you think of these games. But with that all being said, thank you guys for watching this video. I know it wasn't the most positive video out there, but like I said, this game dragged me down with it. Sonic 4 kind of sucks, and now you know why. But let me know what you guys think of these games down below, whether you dislike them as well, or maybe if you do, there are some things that you do like about them. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what games you guys would want me to see talk about. Maybe some other Sonic games like Sonic 06, Rise of Lyric. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. I'm dragging this out. Thank you all for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. It means a lot to me. I don't say it enough, but thank you for watching these videos and just sticking around. If you've made it to this point in the video, I love you. You deserve a gold star. I'm not sure what you're going to do with it, but you get one. But, okay, I'm really dragging this out now. Have a good day.